Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. I don't really mix with other astrologers. I don't even think I like them. I'm just not really a collegiate sort of person. Maybe I'm just a miserable introvert. But when I did mix with astrologers, for example, when I was learning astrology, I did notice something, that astrologers were really interested in disasters. All astrologers, regardless of how nice they were, they just wanted to know about what time, what place, when it happened. This was really important to them. So, for example, when I was learning astrology in the mid-80s, there was a major ferry disaster in, I don't know whether it was in the English Channel, North Sea. It was the Herald of Free Enterprise, and it was a ferry, passenger ferry. Maybe it has some trucks on it, lorries on it as well. And I think it was going from Zeebrugge to the UK across the English Channel or the North Sea, and it took on water and it sank, and a lot of people were killed. And I certainly remember in the astrology class, the first astrology class after the disaster, when we looked at the chart, we knew the time it happened, and yeah, it was really exciting. We wanted to see what what astrologically caused such a disaster. Other disasters that people wanted to set up a chart for. The Challenger disaster. That was a big deal. We wanted to know exactly when when the Challenger space shuttle went off course. What else? The King's Cross fire, King's Cross underground station in London. It caught fire, and a lot of people were killed. But aside from the tragedy, what was really important was getting the precise time it happened. Now, 28 years ago, on April the 19th, at 9:02 a.m. in Oklahoma City, was a massive terrorist attack. This was Timothy McVeigh attacked a government building in Oklahoma City. I think he filled a truck up with fertilizer or something like that, and I believe 160 something people were killed and many more were injured. So if we look at this chart, supposedly we're going to get an idea about what was going on. So without any further ado, we'll look at the chart for the Oklahoma City bombing, which happened 28 years ago. I actually remember it. I was listening on the radio to it. I was writing a book at the time, and it was certainly a big event. I also remember Bill Clinton making a speech just after this. He was very good. It was he was able to be incredibly emotional and getting a balance right, between emotion and just being there and all that kind of smooth talking that Bill Clinton was really good at. And I remember thinking at the time, that's going to save his presidency. His presidency was in real trouble until the Oklahoma City bombing. And then it was the Oklahoma City bombing that rescued Bill Clinton's presidency. At least that's how I saw it. You'd got people criticizing government, and then suddenly the government had been attacked by this bomb planted by Timothy McVeigh, who hated the government. He hated what the government was doing, trying to crack down on people owning guns. It was the Waco siege that upset him. So as far as the Oklahoma City bombing is concerned, when you're looking at a chart like this, it's very important not to overinterpret it. Because when you're dealing with astrology, you can find what you're looking for. It's just so easy. If you can't find what you're looking for with the normal planets, you can throw in asteroids, hypotheticals, whatever, and you can see anything you like in a chart. So you've got to keep it simple. And as far as I'm concerned, there's only one thing in this chart which seems to suggest a terrorist attack. And this is Mars on the IC. It's on an angle. The IC is the lowest point in the chart. Mars occupies this lowest point, and it kind of symbolizes the truck bomb. Underneath the building, it explodes, causing all that damage. So that's really the main theme. If you want to use hypotheticals, then you can throw in. There's a hypothetical called admetos. So if I throw in admetos, you'll see that admetos at 1644 is exactly square Mars at 1646 Leo. So that's admetos at 1644 Taurus, square Mars at 1646 Leo. Admetos, is about things returning to their natural constituents. Although Witter and friends, when describing Mars admetos, they talk about terror and something being throttled, and this perhaps symbolizes what's going on, and something being wrecked as well. They use that word wrecked. And so yes, this building was wrecked. Now, as far as Timothy McVeigh's horoscope is concerned, now he was the person who was primarily responsible, who planted the bomb. Here's his chart. Now, I think we've got too much garbage in that chart, so I'm going to take out the I'll take out the hypotheticals. Let's keep it simple. So the most simple thing about Timothy McVeigh's chart was that he was a Taurus, and I've talked about this before. Taurians are very, very focused, and if that focus is on something like food or having fun or pleasure, like many Taurians like that, that's fine. But when you've got a Taurus that focuses on something political, then you're in real trouble, because Taurians tend to believe that the means justify the end. And once they decide they're going to do something, they do it. They do it methodically, and they don't care about the results. They don't care about who gets hurt. And this is a Taurian feature. Interestingly, Timothy McVeigh was born on the same day as Guy Fawkes, who attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament in 1605. When I say the same day, that means when you adjust for calendars. If you look it up on Wikipedia, you probably have to see, it's not April 23rd, 1968. But when you adjust the calendars, it's the same day, I believe, and the sun is in the same place. So Taurus makes a decision to do something, and Taurus sees it through. Now, as far as more details in the horoscope are concerned, I always emphasize that you've got to look at the 45-degree angles. So here is his sun at 3 degrees 26 Taurus, and it's almost exactly 45 degrees from his moon at 1806 Pisces. Now, there is Mars, there is Saturn, and his sun is exactly on his Mars-Saturn midpoint, and moon is exactly semi-square his moon-Saturn midpoint. You've got to look at these things. If you don't look at the midpoints, particularly involving Mars-Saturn, all this, you're not going to see the complete picture on the chart. And Mars-Saturn is a death pair. He hasn't just got Sun on the Mars-Saturn midpoint, he's got the moon there as well. So death and destruction, is very much part of his life. He almost accepts it, right through to when he was executed. He remained a stubborn unrepentant Taurean, quite happy to embrace his death. I think his only regret was that when he blew up the bomb, he didn't completely destroy the building. So I think I think that is that's a really interesting feature of his chart. Now, one thing about this chart that at least superficially is puzzling, is that Jupiter is making I believe it's a sesquiquadrate to his Sun Moon midpoint. So Jupiter is strongly placed in his chart. Now, Janis Joplin had Jupiter on her Sun Moon midpoint, as I mentioned a few days ago. And Jupiter, Janis Joplin was a real extrovert. She was larger than life. And this doesn't really describe Timothy McVeigh. He was not an extrovert. I don't think he was particularly larger than life. Apparently at school he was very quiet. He didn't say much. Bit of an introvert. I mean, major introvert, I think. So what's this all about? Well, I think we've got to start thinking about what Jupiter actually means. And when we look at Jupiter, we have to remember that Jupiter has strong prejudices. Jupiter is a moralist in its own terms. So with Timothy McVeigh, he had strong views about the government. Jupiter was strong. He believed that the government should be put in its place. He believed he needed to stand up to government. And I think that's how I would explain Jupiter on his Sun-Moon midpoint, though perhaps cynics would argue that I'm trying too hard to explain it. But anyway, that's Timothy McVeigh's chart, and I will now move on to today's astrology. It's kind of simple. I mean, the main theme for today is that there is a conjunction between the Moon and Jupiter in Aries. And that is fortunate. It's a good day. The Moon is about emotion. Jupiter is about expansion, about optimism. So it's a day when we can be happy and optimistic, and we can believe that anything is possible, and we can make other people happy. So that's really the main theme for today. There is some other stuff going on. Neptune is aspecting. Looks like Neptune is square the Venus-Mars midpoint. Now, Neptune on a Venus-Mars midpoint. Well, the Venus-Mars midpoint is about sex, the sexual aspect of things. It's about the combination of the Venus being female sexuality, Mars being male sexuality. And when you've got Neptune on a Venus-Mars midpoint, you have Neptune, the planet of confusion, being related to sexuality. So it's about sexual confusion. It's about doing strange things. It could perhaps be slightly perverted and unusual sexual practices and unusual fetishes and fantasies, something like that. I don't know what that means to you. Whether it means anything, I suppose it depends what you're doing. It depends what your lifestyle is. But, if you are in a romantic relationship, bear it in mind. Now, interesting thing about the Venus-Mars midpoint, everyone in astrology is into relationships. I mean, that's most people. You go to any astrology site, they're all into love. Their love life, is this going to happen, whatever. But they never talk about the Venus-Mars midpoint. They never look at the planets on the Venus-Mars midpoint. I think it's because it's maybe it's too complicated for them. Maybe they don't want to bother working out where the Venus-Mars midpoint is, and the sort of programs that are on the internet that tell you, calculate your chart for you, they don't calculate the Venus-Mars midpoint. I mean, midpoints are not popular. Yeah, but I think you do need to look at them if you want to get a real idea of a horoscope. Now, as far as the 12 signs are concerned, things are dominated by that Moon-Jupiter conjunction. So that does mean I'm going to be quite optimistic. So, Aries, 5 stars. You're inspiring and you can make things happen. Of course, that's got to be the case, because if you're an Aries, you've got a Moon-Jupiter conjunction in your star sign. Taurus, 3 stars. Dreams can interfere with your concentration. Gemini, 5 stars. Great social life, but your ideas could lead you astray. So in fact, not 5 stars, probably 4 stars. Cancer, 5 stars. Career and business prosper, and it's your positivity that counts. Leo, 5 stars. If you believe something is possible, it can really happen. Virgo, 3 stars. If it's simple, it's unlikely to work. Libra, 4 stars. Good organization. Libra, 4 stars. The right person is coming into your life. Scorpio, 4 stars. Good organization brings total success. Sagittarius, 5 stars. It's all coming together. Capricorn, 4 stars. Partners are full of optimism. Aquarius, 4 stars. Your generous words make all the difference. And finally, Pisces, another 5 stars. Your financial luck continues to improve. Now, that's just one view of what's going to be happening today. So let's take a different view. Let's look at what the I Ching is saying. So the first hexagram I got was hexagram number 11, which is peace, harmony, heaven on earth, earth on heaven, whatever that means. But it means that the day's going to start off very nicely. Nothing's going to go wrong. We're going to be at harmony with the world. And yeah, it's going to be happy. And don't forget, we've got a Moon-Jupiter conjunction. However, we do need to remember that other people may not be as strong or as organized as us. And this means we're going to have to tolerate their weaknesses. We can't tolerate them so much that we take risks ourselves, but we've got to tolerate other people's weaknesses as far as we can. But if we keep tolerating people's weaknesses, we could take things too far. And that takes us to the second hexagram, which is 36, which relates to the picture I've got here, which is darkening of the light. So there comes a point where if we do involve people in our life, we have to bring an end to it at some stage, because the optimism and the light is not going to last forever. It's going to start to darken. And that perhaps reminds us, going back to astrology, that we're approaching a full moon, a new moon eclipse. The eclipse is really close, and tomorrow I'll be talking about that. And so that eclipse, that's the end of all our tolerance and social interaction and whatever. We have to bring things to a halt and perhaps fall back on our own resources. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will see you tomorrow.